Hey, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, we're just gonna go through, answer your comments and questions from the channel. Big shout out to everyone on the Patreon. I had a ton of fun roasting your quivers. I am gonna go first with some of our Patreon producers and kind of go through their comments and questions, and then I will kind of go through the rest of them. But if you want to be a Patreon producer, Patreon Rate Your Quiver, you can check all of that out down in the description. We will also have a bunch of links for affiliate links for skis that are on sale, skis if you're in the process of purchasing. I know around this time, a lot of people are shopping for ski gear. So if you want to support the channel without spending any additional money, that's a really great way to do so we can remain independent. But without further ado, let's just answer as many of your questions as we can, try to help as many people as we can all in one go. All right, first questions come from our channel producer, Sam. He says, "Hi Elliott, hope you're having a great Thanksgiving with your family. I have a couple ideas and questions that I wanted to see if you had already addressed before. I was on a thread on Reddit where people were trying to advise this guy who was an intermediate trying to progress to advance not to buy a Stockli Stormrider 95. Well, there's your first problem, it's on Reddit. No, Reddit can have good advice. It just, as you go down from the top comment, it quickly unravels. And as I've always said, Reddit is a really good resource, but I think that because it's all text, there's no tone, and there are a lot of people who are confidently incorrect and just say things without any kind of pushback or fact checking. So you gotta take it all with a tremendous grain of salt. If you ever wanna kind of gauge yourself on a subreddit, go to a subreddit you know a lot about, that maybe is like a niche that you understand more than other things. And you'll see like, okay, they're kind of right. There's some good advice in here. Anyway, so okay, they were trying to tell someone that is intermediate going on to advanced not to get a Stockli Stormrider 95, okay? Based on everything I've heard about the Stormrider, it's not that hard to ski. Maybe people are confusing it with the Mono AR or like a laser. Depending on your level of commitment to the sport, it may not make much sense to spend that much on a ski. That's a good point. But people talk all the time about skis being demanding and not suitable for beginners and intermediates. What features of a ski are hard for beginners / intermediates to deal with? Length, weight, stiffness, width, ease of turn initiation all come to mind. I know you've talked about it in the last, how an Elan Ripstick kind of nails what novices need. Are there any other really excellent all-mountain skis for progressing and any skis that should be avoided? You know what I think intermediates and beginners should avoid at all costs? Zipfits. Those are a huge commitment, LOL. I get what you're saying, and I do kind of understand Reddit's advice. Here's the thing, or here is the gap that I'm seeing, or in my opinion. The Stormrider 95 previously, historically, has been a pretty demanding ski. There's a lot to it, and if you are not fully getting on the front of your boot and loading into it, you may not get the benefits of the Stockli Stormrider 95 because it is a very damp ski. If you're not actually carving on it or fully initiating it, right? If you're skiing it the same way that somebody's maybe skiing an Atomic Bent 90 or, you know, whatever, like a Faction freestyle ski, then the smoothness isn't gonna show up because the ski isn't on edge and it's not being engaged. So I do understand their point. However, I haven't skied on the newer version, but the Stockli Stormrider has been around for a long time. I had a pair of like the 2018 Stormrider 88 Ti's, and I kind of get where they're coming from. The older version was stiff, it was more demanding. However, when I'm saying that Stockli Stormriders are pretty forgiving compared to a Monero or a laser like you're saying, that is the newer version. As the Stormrider has gotten progressively kind of iterated on over the years, they have made it so that the timing of the turns are not as demanding, the turn initiation is a little bit easier, and so that's why I think that these newer versions, like the Stormrider 88s right here, for 2026 and newer, and even the 2025 version that I tested was kind of like this as well, but the 2026 more so, they just are more approachable for intermediate and advanced skiers because you don't have to have the timing down perfect. The Mono AR is probably one of the best like carving experiences I've ever had, but you have to have the timing down and you can't kind of wait around for your turn. You have to be already ready to initiate the next turn. But if you're able to do that, you get rewarded with it. So I can see where somebody maybe has tested an older Stormrider 95 and, you know, they just haven't tried the newer iterations. And I haven't even tried the newer 95. I think the last one I tried was 2024. So, you know, there is a gap there, but the newer versions aren't quite as demanding and they are more forgiving, and especially the 88 in the 2026 version. They have just been able to iterate and make it a much more forgiving ski without having to sacrifice a lot of the fun experience of a Stockli ski, which is that smoothness in the turn while also having dampness. But I do kind of get their point. There's older models of skis, that's the problem too. You don't know which generation they're talking to, and skis aren't documentable. So if you skied a Stockli Stormrider back in 2018, even like back in 2015, something like that, your opinion on the ski could be very different. It also depends on where you're skiing. The other part of your question, what makes for a good ski for intermediate to advanced skiers? It really isn't just one element. A lot of when I see a ski do something and I think, oh, that would be good for this person, is just when you're taking one piece off of their plate for the turn for the carving. So that could be a number of things. That could be turn initiation. Hey, these skis start up really easily. So what I was talking about with the Elon Ripstick 96 Green is because they have the asymmetrical shape, the turn is already partially initiated for you. You don't have to put a lot of work into getting the ski to initiate, and you can focus on the other parts of the turn, on edge angle, you can focus on downhill ski pressure. It just is taking things away and allowing you to focus on a handful of fundamentals. But what each ski takes off the plate is different depending on the ski. There are other skis that do it kind of from a different angle. You can look at short radius skis because they're a shorter radius. One, the turn initiation tends to be pretty quick, but also you can get more turns in a given run, especially if you don't have these big long slopes like, you know, something like Sun Valley. If you have limited runs, if you're getting, let's say, 50 turns on a run instead of 40, well, that's 10 extra turns a run. You're getting more mileage and it's helping you in that way. Or something like the Elon Ripstick, it's taking away one of the elements and allowing you to master and perfect the other elements. I'm not sure I explained that perfectly, but if that makes any sense. What was the second part of that? What do you think intermediate and beginners should avoid at all costs? Zipfits? Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on beginners. Intermediates, there is actually a good use case for intermediates with Zipfits. If you're getting high mileage, if you're going 30, 40 days and you're progressing and you're going more and more, and if you just got brand new boots, they're dialed in, you had like a professional help fit them for you, you're not having issues where you're gonna upgrade your boots or change the size in the future. If you've got that dialed in and you're a high mileage user, there is a world where intermediate skiers could benefit from the Zipfit. The Zipfit isn't just giving you the performance advantage where you're kind of, I don't know, getting a little bit more energy in and out of the boot, but also for comfort. So if you're trying to advance in skiing, the best way to do that is to get a lot of mileage. And if the Zipfit makes your boot more comfortable and allows you to get longer days out of the year, then you can get value. A lot of the Zipfit value really comes from high mileage. If you're using them a lot, that's great. If you're somebody who only skis 5 days a year and it takes you 5 days just to break them in properly, then yeah, you're not getting the full value. But if you're somebody who's a high mileage user, you could get a lot of value out of the Zipfits. It's just a case by case basis. But I agree with like the sentiment. If you're brand new and you don't even really have everything dialed in or know what you like, and you just get Zipfit for the sake of spending money, yes, you will not get the full value. But, you know, it really just depends on a case-by-case basis. But I understand, like, the core of what you're saying. What was the part two? That's a lot of, I've answered a lot. Okay, part two. Do you have any thoughts on ski straps to transport skis? I've tried voile, and Swix straps and really kind of hate voile, even though they're marked and sold by many ski brands. There are metal parts that stick out of them. The Swix are fine, but it's hard to find them for fat skis. Yeah, what did I say? Oh, yeah. I don't typically use the straps that like go over your shoulder to carry it. Really what you wanna do is you wanna get the binding so that it's pointing down so that it doesn't slide out, so it's caught on the bottom brake. And you just put the smooth part on your shoulder and carry them. As far as ski straps go, yeah, most brands for ski straps, it's kind of all over the place. A lot of times like the default one is fine. You can get a big bundle of them from Amazon and they do break down pretty quickly, but they'll work. If you're looking to get like the best ski strap, the best one I've found has been Fast Strap. They kind of have this braided strap that can stretch for those wider skis. I've also had pretty good luck with like historically Toco straps work really well. This is ancient. They're not even in business anymore or around anymore, but I loved back in the day, if you ever got like ski racing gear from Artec out of, what was it, West Leb, New Hampshire or Lyme or somewhere out in the boonies in New Hampshire. Not that West Leb is boonies, but like this shop was out in the boonies. You could get Artec ski like race tuning gear. They carried a lot of like you know, shin guards. They were kind of like the top dog for ski racing equipment. and they would give you with your order, sometimes free, sometimes you had to order it, but they had these R-Tech ski straps. They made nice ski straps. I don't know what it was. It was usually, you know, kind of thrown in the box with it. But man, I had some phenomenal R-Tech ski straps. Those were really good. A lot of brands, like I've noticed that the DPS ski straps I have are really high end. Head makes a nice one. Volcal's ones have been pretty nice. It just depends, it's year to year and everything. But if you're looking for a good one, Toko ski straps I've noticed are always pretty good. Swix, it depends on the model. But if you want the absolute like nicest ski strap, I'm not paid or sponsored by any of these people, but the Fast Strap, their website looks like it was made in 1998. It's very, very basic, but they make a nice strap. It stretches, it's kind of got this braided texture, it's very distinct. It's easy to get a wide variety of widths out of it. It's well made, they tend to last a lot longer. For most people, the ski strap is probably the last thing you need to worry about, but if you're looking for the best ski strap I've found, that's been it so far. Very niche, but that's my answer, I guess. All right, this comment comes from SHJDH Suksko. I currently own Stockli Laser SCs for the groomers and DPS Kaizen 112 for deep powder days, but I need something in the middle. What do you recommend? Budget is around 2,000 USD and I usually ski on Japan. I mean, you've already got two great skis. The Laser is great for carving. The Kaizen 112 is a phenomenal powder ski. It just depends on what you want the other ski to do. Do you want a like spring skiing crud cutter? Do you want a light powder ski like the Vocal Blaze 104? I also have never skied Japan, so I can't like really give you location specific advice. So it just depends on what you want. The problem is that you have two great skis. You've got the Kaizen 112, which is phenomenal, soft, easy to turn on powder, nice on your legs. Then you've got the Laser, which is just a completely dialed in carving firm ski. And you want what's in between? Everything, just about. Oh yeah, I've got this nice Porsche, sports car, and then I've got a big Chevy Suburban. What's in between? I get what you're asking, but I'm just saying that that's such a broad range. What would you get for in between? You could get a light powder ski. Kesley ZX100 would probably be pretty good for light amounts of powder, but still carves well. You might want a Volca M7 Mantra for spring skiing crud days. You may want a Black Crow's Justice for like a travel ski. There's a lot in between what you're saying. Check out my like ski comparison maybe to see what you're looking for. I don't know much about Japan either, so I'm kind of limited there. If I was looking for a ski in between, based on like, I guess my social media understanding of Japan skiing, I would maybe look at a Kesley ZX100. That would probably be a good in between for those. Or a Vocal Blaze 104 for lighter amounts of powder and skiing in the trees. But again, I'm like fully recognizing that my understanding of that terrain specifically is so limited. So take that all with a tremendous grain of salt. There are so many different categories of skis out there. For daily drivers, you could grab a ton of different options in between. But based on everything you have currently, if you need a spring skiing wet, cruddy condition ski, M7 Mantra would be a good kind of in-between point. For glades and light powder, you could go Vocal Blaze 104. Although the Kaizen 112 doesn't struggle in like the trees, so I guess you could kind of ignore that just because of the specific powder ski you have. Probably a Kesley ZX100 would be the move, I think, for you. Check out my review, see if it lines up with what you like, but that's the one that makes the most sense to me. You could also look at like a Atomic Maverick or something like that, but I think the Kesley ZX100 would be a good middle point. Hope that helps. All right, next comment comes from When Lizards Fly. That's a funny name. It's about where I ski up at Bogus Basin. They say, my goat Bogus Basin. Cool to see people hearing about it. A lot of other places would want to keep it quiet so it doesn't get ruined, but the nice thing about Bogus is that we can have faith in the organization not to exploit us. If more come, they would have just more to spend on upgrades. Seriously, the nonprofit aspect is its biggest strength. The other thing you're forgetting is that, a great comment by the way, Bogus Basin limits its ticket and pass sales. Like we don't, one, have like Epic where people come from other areas, but two, when the parking lot's full, it's full. They turn people away. It has a capacity. The owner and managers have talked in the past, I'm paraphrasing here, about how, yeah, we could have more people on the hill, we could expand parking, we could do all these things. If you're not aware, I ski at Bogus Basin, and there's about a 30-minute drive switch back up to the mountain, and then you park on different parts of the mountain. but they will turn people away. They are not going to have it be so crowded because they say, well, we could sell more tickets, we can make more money, but that would erode the experience for the people on the hill to have lines be so long. So that's awesome. They will straight up just cap out how many people can go there. But two, they don't keep selling ski tickets to people, like to overcrowd the mountain on that part, right? So it's not like people are paying and they have nowhere to go. And three, the really cool part about Bogus Basin is it does a really good job of separating the beginner area from the more advanced areas. So for instance, like the front facing part of the mountain with Deer Point Chair and all those other ones most people are familiar with, they have those areas, they have the beginner chair, they have the magic carpet. Those are separate areas, and then the more advanced stuff is on the back side of the mountain. So once you get to the backside, you really don't see very many crowds. Yes, everything gets a little crowded on the weekend, but you don't have tremendous lines on the back side of the hill. So this is good for a few reasons. One, you won't have a big lift line if you're wanting to go do the big powder lines or do the big kind of fun areas. But two, it also means that you're not mixing kind of the beginner skiers with the more advanced skiers and people going really fast. Now, do some people go too fast in beginner areas? Yes, but we're not forced to interact on the chairlift or even in those little areas. You know, some people, yes, will go out of their way to be jerks, but it does a really good job of separating two different abilities and allowing people to have room to breathe when they're learning. And I really like that about Bogus. Actually, that was another third part of Sam's email. Bogus Basin is opening using a snow storage thing from Finland. It looks like they're only opening their beginner area. What do you think about resorts opening with man-made snow only in their beginning area? Sipapu and Taos have both done that. Sandia Peak only had their beginning area open for most of last season, and their Instagram is aggressively marketing power passes like nothing ever happened. I don't know, maybe that one goes beyond the scope of your ski review focus channel. I mean, I think it's great that they're opening. I do think if you're a big ski fan and you're a big, what's the right word? Like you're an avid user, a big fan, a big power user, you don't have to go for opening day. Opening day is usually just what my dad calls the white strip of death, where everybody's on one spot, they're all fighting for it, and it's more likely you're gonna get hurt. For Bogus Basin specifically, it makes sense that that's where they would have first because usually they just have the front side open, and you know, those beginner areas are relevant to kind of everything. And a lot of times the opening day is just that chairlift anyway. So it makes the most sense, it's serving the most people. I think if you are a big fan, you wouldn't really care anyway, and they wouldn't have the capacity to open the advanced trails because they're too long, right, for that amount of snow. So I think it makes sense that they have that baseline. A lot of them are probably trying to make sure that they're open for Christmas, which, you know, a lot of people skiing really only do ski 5 days a year. So I think it makes perfect sense. I think it's fine. I think then also if you're an advanced skier and you just want to get on snow right away, you're still getting that experience. And I think most people understand why the rest of the mountain isn't open. I think it's cool that they're doing that. It's kind of a man-made version of what goes on at Mount Hood in the summer because they have that snow bowl where it insulates itself and keeps the snow year round so they can have those summer camps. So it's kind of a way of like getting a similar effect, but just having the insulation over the top. I think it's awesome. I don't know how effective it is. It seems like it's still pretty new, but I'm curious to find out what happens. I mean, again, just a really nice thing about Bogus Basin being a nonprofit, they are trying to find ways to put money back into the mountain. But yeah, all in all, I mean, I've been very vocal about my love for Bogus Basin. The only downsides I ever see is the mountain biking definitely struggles sometimes, but I don't know, it's still kind of a new program. And the roads, I sometimes wish there was more enforcement. I see a lot of people driving vehicles that are not able to safely go up and down that hill. I wish there was some kind of enforcement for snow tires, chains, I guess, wouldn't really be applicable. It's hard because Boise will be completely, you know, sunshiny, no snow, and then Bogus Basin is getting just dumped on with snow, whereas it's lower elevation here, it might be rain. That's my only gripe though. I wish that and that's not Bogus Basin's fault, but I just wish there was more education or enforcement for what kind of vehicles can safely make it up to Bogus Basin during a storm, because there's nothing worse than getting stuck behind a vehicle or a row of vehicles because one person decided that their first day of skiing needed to be a big powder day. But yeah, it's a phenomenal mountain, in my opinion. All right, Will CS3YB says, Elliott, have you ever thought to do retrospective reviews. I buy skis off Marketplace often. My current quiver is 2020 Liberty Evolve 90 and newly acquired 2015 Vocal Mantra. I'd be curious what you think about some older models and how technology has evolved over the past 10 years. That'd be really fun. If I had unlimited resources, it would be the most thorough way to do things, but I don't think it would be a great use of time, one, because everything's just kind of moving forward. Even a review I do eventually becomes kind of null and void for people. I think that what I just have to do is work forward and let my kind of catalog of ski reviews, which is up for free for everybody, stand on its own for when those skis become kind of vintage or you're in the used market. I will say too, be careful getting used skis with the bindings. You don't know what the bindings are on there. They might not be the first pair of skis that binding has been on. You don't know how old they are. Go and get all of your bindings tested out when you're buying used, especially 2015. That's now an 11-year-old ski. Be careful with that. I love it. I think it'd be cool to do. That's the other thing too, is it becomes unsafe unless I'm mounting my own bindings on it, but then old skis tend to have a lot of drill holes, so you can't always do that. Becomes a logistical nightmare. In a perfect world, it would be awesome to just have perfect sight of every ski ever made. And I have a lot of appreciation for older skis that I've skied on, but I just don't think logistically it makes any sense to work backwards. It only makes sense to kind of work forward, if that makes sense. And even sometimes there's skis where I miss them and I can get them for cheap because it's an old version. But at that point, I'm not really helping as many people as I can. I have limited time, I have limited resources, and I try to be as efficient as I can be and help people at home watching as much as I can. Be as effective of helping consumers as much as I can. So I hope that answers the question. It's a good idea in theory, but the practicality part kind of comes into play for me. All right, last question for the day. Dan D's 7901 says, what do you think of me buying one of those complete packages? This is on my ski deal video. Ski, boots, bindings, poles, like the K2 or Rosignol sets for around $600. I know that's around as cheap as it gets, but my goal would be to save money on rentals over the next 5 to 8 years or so. Would the skis last that long? I would go skiing about 3 times a year, but rentals are expensive. How would a cheap $600 complete package quality compare to the average resort rental skis? Curious on your thoughts about that. Should I just rent, being that I may only go like twice a year? Thanks. Oh man. Well, the value versus like what you're paying, you have to consider a few things. When you're renting, you're getting a brand new ski and a brandish new ski and brandish new boot, but you're getting that year's model. So it's a little bit apples and oranges, and you're getting freshly tuned and freshly waxed skis. If you're only skiing a few times a year, you're gonna store them. They may not get taken care of. If you're trying to save money, are you really gonna buy the tuning equipment? Are you gonna bring them into the shop to get tuned and waxed and taken care of? I mean, I guess you could go to REI. They have like a free wax thing that they do where they just roll it across for the year. But still, you see my bigger point. The other thing too is that the boots each year, I don't know. That is a pretty slim amount of skiing. The skis and boots will probably last that long. I think it just depends. If you're going to the same place every time, you can store them well, you kind of have an idea of what you like, it may be worth it. Yeah, because essentially the problem with demo stuff is like you're never really gonna break the boots in versus having your own pair where you can wear them leading up to the trip. So you're gonna know that you have comfortable boots. So that's a big advantage. You can also get the exact ski you want. You don't have to kind of depend on the inventory locally. That's an upside. But the other upside is that if you're new and you don't quite know what you like, demoing skis is a really good way to figure out what you like. If it were me, I would maybe split the middle. I would buy a really nice pair of ski boots, get them so they fit properly, and then if you're not sure about skis, demo skis. And then once you figure out what you kind of like, wait for the summer, get a pair on sale where they haven't changed, and get dialed in what you like as you maybe find that you want to go more days out of the year. But yeah, I would rent the skis, buy the boots. Unless you already know what you like and you can find a good deal on it. As far as packages go, packages are fine. Just make sure, one, that it's actually cheaper. Sometimes you don't really save any money with the packages when you do the math on it. Or it means that you have to make a sacrifice on the boots, then the packages become not worth it. And also make sure not all packages have the bindings mounted. They may just come in the box when they ship to you. Not every pair, it depends case by case. But do your research and make sure the bindings are actually mounted on the ski, because if they're not, that's another $60 to $75 that you're spending out the door. But packages are generally fine. I just haven't found a package that saved a tremendous amount of money. It's usually pretty minimal. And two, you know, if you're only saving a little bit of money, don't make a sacrifice on a proper fitting boot or getting the right equipment for what you need. There's nothing inherently wrong with packages. There's certainly a reason that they're popular and people do that, but do the math for yourself, make sure it's what you need, and if it comes down to it, I would probably more readily recommend that you get a proper pair of boots. Maybe you spend $300 or $400 on last year's colors or whatever, but get a good boot, and then renting skis is so much easier. You don't have to store them. You can try a bunch of different things. If you even do it at the mountain, sometimes they'll let you try multiple pairs in a day and you just come and swap them out depending on your mountain. So that's how I would play it, but you're kind of right on the edge of getting your value out of it. It's also easier if you're traveling. It's easier to carry boots than it is to travel with skis. That would be my recommendation too. If you're traveling to different areas, buy the boots. What do they say? Marry the boots, date the skis. That would be my 100% honest recommendation. So anyway, that's the end of the video. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. You can also become a Patreon supporter in the link down below. We have affiliate links if you're in the process of shopping. You have the little pop-up ones through YouTube. You can also use the ones in the description for Evo. We have company Ko-Fi Venmo if you want to make a one-off donation. You can like and subscribe, all that jazz. But as always, just thanks for taking time out of your day to watch my videos. It means a ton to me. And as always, I just really appreciate that you guys care enough to watch my videos. It's nice to see how supportive you guys are in the comments down below. I think that's always been really cool. A lot of these questions I'm answering, people had really good advice and positive feedback down below. I don't know. As always, I just appreciate how great of a community we have here, and I can't say thank you enough. And of course, as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.